If you do not understand this properly, then you will not be able to understand the development of heart. Because it is the basic. First of all, I have repeatedly discussed where heart develops. Where heart develops. The area where heart develops. What is the name of that area? Mesentery to something, another thing. It is not mesentery. Mesentery means fold of peritoneum. Mesentery means fold of peritoneum. And heart develops from where? There are three basic layers: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. As you have not studied seriously, that's why mesoderm has become mesentery. There are two types of mesoderm. As extra-embryonic and intra-embryonic. From which mesoderm? Intra-embryonic. Intra-embryonic mesoderm again divided into two parts. A cavity appears within this mesentery, mesoderm, and it divides this mesoderm into two parts. The mesoderm which lines the yolk sac. You should remember, the mesoderm which lines the yolk sac is known as splanchnopluric mesoderm, and which lines the amniotic cavity is known as somatopluric mesoderm. Now, out of these two mesoderm, from which mesoderm heart develops? Splanchnopluric mesoderm. Now, again, heart is covered by a membrane that is called pericardium. Pericardium is a cavity. It is the part of the body cavity which lies centrally just in front of the procaudal area, that is known as pericardial cavity. Just below this pericardial cavity, this is splanchnic mesoderm, is known as cardiogenic area. Cardio माने है heart, genic माने production. यहाँ से production होता है. Cardiogenic area. Now, at this area, some cells migrate from epiblast. You know, if you remember bilaminar germ disc, the upper layer is called lower layer is hypoblast, upper is epiblast. Some cells from epiblast, which lies at the caudal region, just by the lateral side of the primitive streak. From there, these cells migrate through primitive streak and goes to that area just below the pericardium. This is known as primary heart field. From the primary heart field, these cells ultimately will form two tubes. That is called endothelial tube. These two tubes will again merge from cranial to caudal direction. I have drawn this merged heart tube. Now this heart tube, after merging, this single heart tube become a series of dilatation you are seeing here. It will develop series of dilatation. And it is named, each dilatation is named, has given proper name. You have to remember that name. And from this dilatation, which part of the heart is developing, you have to commit to memory. it will come to your exam. Definitely it will come. Development of without studying development of heart, you will not go to your exam center. Have you gone through the previous discussion? Gone through? Very good. Now, I am not going to discuss the previous chapter. If we regularly go on repeating this chapter, I will not be able to finish. Now, I will discuss about the sinus venosus and primitive atrium. Sinus venosus, you know, the heart tube has got two ends, arterial end and venous end. Venous end is sinus venosus, and sinus venosus, here you see two bifurcated part, that is called horn of the sinus venosus. Now, into each horn of the sinus venosus, three important structures open. Three important structures opens. One is from medial to lateral, vitelline vein, then umbilical vein, and then common cardinal vein. Now you have to know these veins are coming from where? Vitelline vein is coming from the wall of the yolk sac. Vitelline vein is coming from the wall of the yolk sac. Umbilical vein is coming from where? Umbilical vein is coming from where? Yolk sac to vitelline ho gaya. And umbilical vein is coming from where? Placenta. Very good. Umbilical vein is coming from placenta. You know, umbilical cord is connected to placenta. So umbilical vein will come from placenta. And cardinal vein, common cardinal vein is coming from, it will be difficult little bit. Wow. Common cardinal vein is coming from body wall. There are two cardinal veins, one is coming from anteriorly and one is coming from posteriorly. They meet to form common cardinal vein. So these three veins from medial to lateral, if we here one vein is most medially lies vitelline vein, then you will get umbilical vein, and most laterally you will get common cardinal vein. This common cardinal vein, actually it is like this. It has the anterior part and posterior part. It is coming from the anterior part of the body wall, it is coming from the posterior part of the body wall, it is the common cardinal vein. It lies most laterally. These three veins open into the right horn of the sinus venosus. Likewise, there is another set on the left side. I draw only on the right side. Right. Now, it may come as a short note, sinus venosus. It may come as a short note, like sinus venosus. Then you have to first describe the heart tube, and you should say that it is the part of the venous end of the heart tube, sinus venosus. This sinus venosus has got body and two horns. Now I am drawing the sinus venosus. It has got body and two horns, right horn and left horn, and this is the body. Now this sinus venosus opens into which chamber of the primitive heart tube? Sinus venosus will be connected with primitive atrium. It is the primitive atrium. It is the primitive atrium. Now if suppose I draw the primitive atrium, and this is the opening of the sinus venosus. This is the opening of the sinus venosus. Before that, after the formation of the heart tube, this heart tube actually invaginate into the pericardial sac, and as it will go on increasing, so ultimately what will happen? If one tube grows within a limited space, then what will happen to accommodate that tube? Then what will happen? It has to be bent, otherwise it will not be able to, this space will not be able to accommodate. So the heart tube, when it will go on increasing in size, it will bend. That is, first it will bend in a U-shaped manner. U-shaped manner. Just to give idea, I am drawing this, not full. This U-shaped, this is the heart tube. The apex of this U-tube, this apex is actually occupied by the ventricle, primitive ventricle. This ventricle. Apex is occupied by the primitive ventricle. It has two arms, this arm and this arm. It is the cephalic arm. This is the caudal arm. Cephalic arm is occupied by primitive ventricle plus bulbous cordis and truncus arteriosus, and caudal limb is occupied by primitive atrium and sinus venosus. Right? Now, again what will happen? Again, due to the growth of the caudal end, it will form like this. It will become S-shaped. The caudal end, the left atrium will go backwards and upwards. Will go backwards and upwards. Right? Backwards means dorsal. Upwards means cephalic side. It will go dorsocephalic direction. The caudal end, which contains which part of the heart tube? Atrium as well as sinus venosus. Atrium will go dorsally and cephalic. Right? Now, this atrium you see, if it is the position of the atrium, it lies, here lies the पीछे क्या था notochord, और here lies the developing ventricle. So between these two spaces, it will enlarge transversely. First it will be U-shaped, ventrally and caudally. This is U-shaped. Now this end will form a bend that is called S-shaped bend. First U-shaped, then S-shaped. You just remember S-shaped and U-shaped. It will not actually come to your exam for your conception. Now the main part is you should know that much that the right atrium communicates with the sinus venosus through an opening. That opening first lies at the central part here, and it will become elongated transversely. Now what will happen? Here you see this wall of the sinus venosus will go inwards. Now it seems that this part is the tributary of this part. As this part, left wall, has gone inwards, has encroached inwards. So now this left horn seems to be the tributary of the right horn, right? And now you have to know the fate of the right horn and fate of the left horn. Right horn, ultimately right horn as well as body. This is the body of the sinus venosus. Body of the sinus, the right horn of the sinus venosus. That will be merged. That you must remember. Body as well as right horn will be merged within the wall of the right atrium, and it will form the smooth part of the right atrium. Right atrium is a common chamber. First it will be divided into right and left. That primitive right atrium, it is very important you remember this. Primitive right atrium will be divided into right and left chamber. That will develop the rough part of the left atrium and right atrium. Rough part means tabiculated part. Now each atrium has got two parts. Inside, if you see, there are two parts, a smooth part and rough part. Smooth part is coming from, on the right side, from the right horn of the sinus venosus and body of the sinus venosus. The body and right horn of the sinus venosus will form the smooth part of the right atrium. Another small area also contributes to the smooth part of the right atrium. That is right half of the atrioventricular canal, AV canal. AV canal, through AV canal, atrium is connected to the ventricle. That is known as atrioventricular canal. That is again divided into two, right and left. From that part also, smooth part develops. So if you write first, if you give heading, number 1, rough part of the right atrium develops from the right half of the primitive atrial cavity, and smooth part is developing from the body of the sinus venosus as well as the right horn of the sinus venosus, and also a small part of the right atrioventricular canal. they are forming the smooth part. Now come to the left atrium. Left atrium is the left atrium, rough part is developing from the primitive left atrium, and smooth part is developing from the left atrium. Into the left atrium, which blood is coming into? Oxygenated or deoxygenated? Oxygenated blood is coming into the left atrium through which vessel? Pulmonary vein. This is the only vein which carries oxygenated blood. This pulmonary vein merge into the wall of the left atrium and form the smooth part of the left atrium. The posterior part of the left atrium, where pulmonary vein is draining, they will form the smooth part of the posterior part of the left atrium, and anterior part of the left atrium is contributed by left half of the atrioventricular canal. That is clear. One second, now let us see the interatrial septum. Very much important from your examination point of view. The interatrial septum, development of the interatrial septum. This is the common atrial chamber, right? This is the common atrial chamber, and this is the ventricle. This is called ventricle. But actually, if you draw this picture, you will not be able to show the interatrial septum, right? You know that the atrium lies ventrally or dorsally to the ventricle. Ventricle কোন দিকে থাকে? Atrium. If you see the adult heart, where lies the atrium? Dorsally or ventrally? Dorsally. And in front of the atrium lies the ventricle. Now, there is a term, ventral or dorsal endocardial cushion. You should remember this term, dorsal or ventral endocardial cushion. At the junction of the atrioventricular junction, from the dorsal wall and from the ventral wall, two cushion develop, and they will ultimately meet and form septum intermedium. That septum intermedium separates atrioventricular canal into the right and left arm. You should remember this septum intermedium. If you do not know the septum intermedium, you will not be able to understand this. Septum intermedium, from where it is developing? At the junction of the atrium and ventricle, atrioventricular orifice. From its dorsal wall and from its ventral wall, two endocardial cushion is developing. They are approaching to each other, and they will meet with each other, and they will form a septum that is called septum intermedium. They are called, this is called septum intermedium. What it differentiates? It differentiates between the two channel, that is right atrioventricular canal and left atrioventricular canal. This is called septum intermedium. And this is the common atrial chamber. It has not yet been separated. I am drawing the septum to divide it into right and left atrium. First, septum will develop from the roof and dorsal wall, of the common atrial chamber. This is the roof. This is the roof. It is developing, and its lower end is concave. When it is developing, its lower end is concave. When it will come here, it is concave. So there is a space between the septum intermedium and come the concave margin of the lower end of the septum, which is developing from the roof as well as dorsal wall of the right atrium. এই পিকচারে তো তোকে ডরসাম দেখানো যাবে না, 2D স্ট্রাকচার ডরসাম দেখানো যাচ্ছে না, শুধু রূপ দেখানো যাচ্ছে। তাহলে now this septum is called septum primum. The septum primum is the first septum which is developing from the roof and dorsal wall of the common atrial chamber. Hey, Mister, what are you doing? Bolo, you stand up. What I told you just now. Am I gossiping? If you don't find an interest, you may go. Door is open. Sit down. Now here you see at the lower end, and it is concave in margin, lower end. So when it is touching the septum intermedium, there will be a space. That space is known as foramen primum. Now through this foramen, blood from the right atrium, now it has been divided right and left. From the right atrium, blood will pass through this foramen to the left atrium. Now what will happen? This foramen will be closed. This foramen will be closed when it will be completely merged with the septum intermedium. When it will be completely merged with the septum intermedium, this foramen will be closed. Now how blood will go from the right to left? So there must be another opening. That opening develops at the upper part of this septum primum. Some cells here die, and here will be a foramen. Second foramen will appear here. Now this foramen will allow the blood from right to left. Right? This is called foramen secundum. This is called foramen secundum. Now another septum will develop on the right side of this from septum primum here. Here another septum will develop, that is known as septum secundum. This area is known as, there is a valve here. There is a valve here. This opening is here is an opening. This opening is the opening of the sinus venosus with the atrium. প্রথমে দেখলাম না sinus venosus ওপেনিংটা, সেই ওপেনিংটা আলটিমেটলি এখানে এসে গেছে, বুঝলি তো? দ্যাট ওপেনিং, it has got two valve. It is the right valve, and it is the left valve, and two valve will meet to form septum spurium. Septum spurium. Septum spurium. And this area between the first septum primum and that is spurium, this area is known as septomarginal area. This area is known as septomarginal area. Septomarginal area. Now this septum secundum is developing from the septomarginal area. Right? Second septum যেটা ডেভেলপ করলো অন দ্য রাইট সাইড অফ দ্য সেপ্টাম প্রাইমাম, সেই এরিয়াটার নাম কি? সেটা হচ্ছে সেপ্টোমার্জিনাল এরিয়া। বুঝলি? ওটা মনে না থাকলে বলবি, ইট ডেভেলপস অন দ্য রাইট সাইড অফ দ্য সেপ্টাম প্রাইমামস। সেপ্টাম সেকেন্ডাম ডেভেলপ অন দ্য রাইট সাইড অফ দ্য septum primum. Now, how much it will develop? This septum secundum, how much it will develop? It has to develop just to overlap the septum primum. It has to develop to overlap this septum primum. Why? Why are you laughing, madam? বুঝতে পারছো? এটা যদি বুঝতে না পারো, এখানে অনেকগুলো অ্যানোমেলিজ আছে, বুঝতে পারবে না। এখন বাড়িতে গিয়ে তোমাকে 10 বার পড়তে হবে, বুঝতে পারবো না। ইট হ্যাজ টু, যদি এই পর্যন্ত ডেভেলপ হতো তাহলে তো ইট উইল নট বি এবল টু ক্লোজ দিস foramen. So it has to develop much below the foramen. Now you see here also foramen exists. That foramen, দেখো একটা valvular foramen. Now still this foramen is existing. That is called foramen ovale. What is foramen ovale? Foramen ovale is a sinuous or কি টাইপের foramen এটা? এটা ডাইরেক্ট foramen from right to left. Direct foramen, একটা oblique passage. বুঝতে পারলি? Now this foramen secundum is strong. This foramen is strong. This septum is strong and this septum is not so much strong. So when after the birth of the baby, when the lung will start functioning, now blood will come. You know, from the lung blood is coming to the left atrium. When mass blood will come within the left atrium, then they will push this septum primum and will come in contact with the septum secundum, and it will close the foramen ovale. বুঝতে পারলি জিনিসটা বুঝতে পারলি পিছে what is foramen ovale? It oblique passage between the two septum, septum primum and septum secundum. When it will be closed, when pressure on both sides will be equalized, it will push and it will be closed. Sometimes in 20-25% cases, they are not closed. You can, if you pass a probe, you can pass the probe. So it is called probe patency. It remains patent, you can pass probe, but that will not cause any problem. Because pressure is always to some extent higher on the left side, so it will push the septum against the septum secundum, so it will remain closed. There will be no passage of blood through this probe patency foramen ovale. So this is the foramen ovale. Now there are two terms, fossa ovalis and limbus there are two terms, fossa ovalis and limbus fossa ovalis. You will be asked in the exam to show, when you will see the adult heart, the interior of the right atrium, you have to see the interior of the right atrium and right interatrial septum. There you will get two things, fossa ovalis and limbus fossa ovalis. What is limbus fossa ovalis? Limbus fossa ovalis is the lower margin of the septum secundum. The lower margin of the septum secundum, and fossa ovalis is the septum primum. Septum primum is the fossa. Fossa ovalis is the septum primum, and limbus fossa ovalis is the lower free margin of the septum secundum. These are two important questions, practical questions in your exam. You will be asked. So now let us summarize the development of the right atrium, development of the atrium or interventricular septum, interatrial septum. First, you know, common atrial chamber. That common atrial chamber, it has to be divided into right and left. So first septum primum will develop from the roof. Or if you can remember, you may also say the dorsal wall. If you remember, you should say from the roof. Only roof. From the roof, the central septum primum is coming downwards, and it will come towards the septum intermedium. What is septum intermedium? It is the septum intermedium is the endocardial cushion developing from the dorsal and ventral wall of the atrioventricular canal. So it is coming towards the septum intermedium, but it does not reach there. So there is a space between these two. That space is known as foramen primum. Now this foramen primum will be ultimately closed. So this necessitates the formation of the foramen secundum. Otherwise blood will not pass from the right to left. So at the cephalic end of the septum primum, another opening has developed. That is called foramen secundum. Now that foramen secundum again has to be closed. So another septum will arise on the right side of the septum primum. That is called septum secundum. That septum secundum will develop in such a way that it will overlap the septum primum, and it will ultimately close the foramen secundum. Right? Now when to start with, there is an oblique passage between the septum primum and septum secundum. This oblique passage is passing through the foramen secundum, that is called foramen ovale. Foramen ovale. If this foramen ovale passes, then it is one of the congenital anomalies of the heart. অনেক সময় বলে দেখবি গ্রামের লোকের হার্টে ফুটো আসে, বলে না, হার্টে ফুটো। ইট ইজ নাথিং বাট ইজ দ্য পারসিস্টেন্স অফ দ্য ফোরামেন ওভেল। তোকে বললে তো হবে না, তো তুই যদি বলি হ্যাঁ ফুটো আসে, তো হবে না, তুই তো জানতো, ইউ হ্যাভ টু নো হোয়াট ইজ ফোরামেন ওভেল। It is the passage between the two septum primum and septum secundum.